In this video we will talk about 3 things. Number 1. Why tensions are rising between the neighbors, India and China. Number 2. How dangerous could this skirmish get? Number 3. What next? So let's begin. The armies of the world's 2 most populous nations are locked in a tense face-off high in the Himalayas, which has the potential to escalate as they seek to further their strategic goals. Officials quoted by the Indian media say thousands of Chinese troops have forced their way into the Galwan Valley in Ladakh, in the disputed Kashmir region. Indian leaders and military strategists have clearly been left stunned. The reports say that in early May, Chinese forces put up tents, dug trenches and moved heavy equipment several kilometers inside what had been regarded by India as its territory. The move came after India built a road several hundred kilometers long connecting to a high-altitude forward air base which it reactivated in 2008. The message from China appears clear to observers in Delhi: this is not a routine incursion. Ajay Shukla, an Indian military expert who served as a colonel in the army, says, the situation is serious. The Chinese have come into territory which they themselves accepted as part of India. It has completely changed the status quo. China takes a different view, saying it's India which has changed facts on the ground. Reports in the Indian media said soldiers from the 2 sides clashed on at least 2 occasions in Ladakh. Standoffs are reported in at least 3 locations: the Galwan Valley, Hot Springs, and Pangong Lake to the south. India and China share a border more than 3,440 kilometers, 2,100 miles, long and have overlapping territorial claims. Their border patrols often bump into each other, resulting in occasional scuffles, but both sides insist no bullet has been fired in 4 decades. Their armies, 2 of the world's largest, come face to face at many points. The poorly demarcated line of actual control separates the 2 sides. Rivers, lakes and snowcaps mean the line separating soldiers can shift, and they often come close to confrontation. The current military tension is not limited to Ladakh. Soldiers from the 2 sides are also eyeball to eyeball in Nakula, on the border between China and the northeastern Indian state of Sikkim. Earlier this month they reportedly came to blows. Nepal also accuses India of encroaching on its territory by building a road connecting with China. Mr. Shukla says, the traditionally peaceful Galwan River has now become a hotspot because it is where the line of actual contact is closest to the new road India has built along the Shyok River to Dowlat Begoldi, DBO. The most remote and vulnerable area along the line of actual contact in Ladakh. India's decision to ramp up infrastructure seems to have infuriated Beijing. Chinese state-run media outlet Global Times said categorically, the Galwan Valley region is Chinese territory, and the local border control situation was very clear. According to the Chinese military, India is the one which has forced its way into the Galwan Valley. So India is changing the status quo along the line of actual contact that has angered the Chinese, says Dr. Long Xingchen, president of the Chengdu Institute of World Affairs, a think tank. Michael Kugelman, deputy director of the Asia program at the Wilson Center, another think tank, says this face-off is not routine. He adds China's massive deployment of soldiers is a show of strength. The road could boost Delhi's capability to move men and material rapidly in case of a conflict. Differences have been growing in the past year over other areas of policy too. When India controversially decided to end Jammu and Kashmir's limited autonomy in August last year, it also redrew the region's map. The new federally administered Ladakh included Aksai Chin, an area India claims but China controls. Number 2. How dangerous could this skirmish get? Former Indian diplomat P. Stobden, an expert in Ladakh and India-China affairs, says we routinely see both armies crossing the line of actual contact. It's fairly common and such incidents are resolved at the local military level. But this time, the build-up is the largest we have ever seen. The standoff is happening at some strategic areas that are important for India. If Pangong Lake is taken, Ladakh can't be defended. If the Chinese military is allowed to settle in the strategic valley of Shyok, then the Nubra Valley and even Siachen can be reached. In what seems to be an intelligence failure, India seems to have been caught off guard again. According to Indian media accounts, the country's soldiers were outnumbered and surrounded when China swiftly diverted men and machines from a military exercise to the border region. This triggered alarm in Delhi, and India has limited room for maneuver. It can either seek to persuade Beijing to withdraw its troops through dialogue or try to remove them by force. Neither is an easy option. Ajay Shukla says China is the world's 2nd largest military power. Technologically it's superior to India. Infrastructure on the other side is very advanced. Financially, China can divert its resources to achieve its military goals, whereas the Indian economy has been struggling in recent years, and the coronavirus crisis has worsened the situation. Number 3. What next? History holds difficult lessons for India. It suffered a humiliating defeat during the 1962 border conflict with China. India says China occupies 38,000 kilometers of its territory. Several rounds of talks in the last 3 decades have failed to resolve the boundary issues. China already controls the Aksai Chin area further east of Ladakh, and this region, claimed by India, is strategically important for Beijing as it connects its Xinjiang province with western Tibet. In 2017, India and China were engaged in a similar standoff lasting more than 2 months in Doklam Plateau, a tri-junction between India, China, and Bhutan. India objected to China building a road in a region claimed by Bhutan. The Chinese stood firm. Within 6 months, Indian media reported that Beijing had built a permanent all-weather military complex there. This time too, talks are seen as the only way forward. Both countries have so much to lose in a military conflict. Dr. Long Xingchen of the Chengdu Institute of World Affairs says China has no intention to escalate tensions, and I think India also doesn't want a conflict. But the situation depends on both sides. The Indian government should not be guided by the nationalistic media comments. Both countries have the ability to solve the dispute through high-level talks. Chinese media have given hardly any coverage to the border issue, which is being interpreted as a possible signal that a route to talks will be sought. Thanks for watching. For more videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.